Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And today I want to have a look at a terrible tale of one woman's plight to try and give birth because the NHS has not got enough midwives. This has been well documented before, but this poor woman had to travel to 3 different hospitals and do 40 miles before she could become a mother. Let's look at this story and find out what the hell is going on in the NHS. Right, before we get into the story, I must say that it is well documented that the NHS has a massive problem with the retaining of midwives. The older ones are retiring and those not quite so old are taking early retirement or leaving and going elsewhere because they are massively overworked, overstressed and underpaid. Now, this problem is not going to get any easier. The birth rate keeps increasing. So the only thing left open to the NHS to do is either to train midwives or to hire them in from abroad. Now, if you get them from Europe, they're not going to come because they earn more money and have an easier time of it abroad in Europe than they do here. So that leaves the developing world. That in itself has several problems, not least of which is the moral viewpoint that why are you stealing the medical personnel from countries who desperately need it to come here? Then you also have language and cultural problems when they do get it here. So it is not an easy solution, except for one thing that could be an easy solution, and that is to train a lot more midwives here. That way there's no language or cultural problems, and with a lot more midwives there won't be the retaining of midwives problems because they're not going to be overworked. If you could pay them a bit more as well, that may help. But of course that's the problem: money. The NHS hasn't got enough money to hire midwives or train them. Why? It's given billions each year, but it has to spend it on stupid, wanky classes like teaching people how men give birth. This has been documented and I've done videos about it. So what are the NHS left with? Well, maybe if we fired half the middle management, we could hire a midwife or two. But anyway, we'll look at this story and this woman's terrible plight. So, woman in labour was forced to travel 40 miles to give birth after 3 NHS hospitals turned her away because they did not have enough midwives. And as I said, they can't retain them. Barbara Job, 25, from Peterborough, had to travel to a hospital in Leicester. Peterborough City, Hinchingbrooke and Rosie hospitals all rejected her. She was in incredible pain as her husband drove her to Leicester Royal Infirmary. And, I'm sure the ladies here who've had children will understand the pain involved. Not just the actual pain of the actual birth, which, of course, is not a walk in the park. But when baby comes. Baby doesn't want to wait. And if you're holding it in and holding and holding and holding because you've got to get to hospital, God knows the pain that you're in. So a woman had to travel 40 miles to give birth after being turned away from 3 hospitals because they did not have enough midwives. Her birthing plans specified Peterborough City Hospital, and she rang the unit there after her waters broke, her mother-in-law Rita Scott said. But she and her husband William were told there were not enough staff to ensure a safe delivery and they should look elsewhere. Well, this is the appalling state of the NHS. We can't help you because we haven't got enough staff because we've pissed our money away on woke wankerati courses on gender studies of this and trans studies of that and showing how men give birth. And I keep repeating it because it's so stupid, and yet it happened. The pair were met with the same response at Huntingdon's Hinchingbrooke and at the Rosie Hospital in Cambridge. Leicester Royal Infirmary finally accepted Mrs. Job, and the couple had to drive to the hospital while she was in incredible pain, Miss Scott said. She gave birth to a healthy baby boy there. I hope mother and boy are doing well and that father is recovering and is not as angry as he probably should be. Mrs. Job's saga is a consequence of the midwife staffing crisis currently plaguing the NHS. Nearly 300 more staff left the health service than joined it last year. That's 300 midwives gone across the nation, but even so, gone. The Royal College of Midwives says members are at the end of their tether and physically and emotionally burnt out. Ms. Scott told the BBC they had to face a very long drive for well over an hour, with her in incredible pain, to get to the Leicester Hospital where she was finally admitted. I found it very upsetting because it made me feel very spoiled. When I had my children, you go through so much attention back then, whereas now you're having to fight. You are little more than meat in a hospital these days. I hope other mothers don't go through this. Other mothers will increasingly go through this. If ever there is a subject that is designated women's problems, this is ultimately the one, because ultimately it's women who are the mothers and women who have to go through, apart from all the carrying, all that excruciating pain right at the end. And to deny a woman a hospital place because you, as a hospital administrator, have really screwed the pooch and wanked away millions in some case on shite, rather than put it where it's needed, frontline healthcare, staffing, medication, that kind of thing, you should be hanging your head in shame. And in fact, you should quit. You should be quitting. Whoever is in charge of the midwifery service in those 3 hospitals should be quitting. They should look at what money they've spent other than at front end healthcare and repay it out of their own wage and then quit, because they're not very good at their job. Miss Job had to ring up the manager at Peterborough City Hospital in front of Leicester Royal Infirmary staff. The Cambridgeshire Peterborough Integrated Care System, which represents all of Cambridgeshire's NHS providers, said the safety of the parents and babies using our maternity units is an absolute priority. Well, that line there is utter bollocks. The safety of parents and babies using our maternity units is an absolute priority. No. You've turned her away. She needed to use it and you turned her away. So there was no priority for her there. She's about to give birth on somebody's doorstep and you said no. You could have got her into a general ward at least. But no, you turned her away because you can't help but piss money up the wall on shite. All patients are risk assessed before they're transferred to an alternative location. I bet that never happened. That woman's waters had broke. What on earth is the risk assessment that says, no, this woman's waters are broken, send her over an hour away, 40 miles away, to a place she doesn't know? I mean, come off it. Your mouths are opening and all I'm hearing is shit. More than half of England's maternity units have received negative ratings for safety, according to the latest Care Quality Commission reports. Regulators rated 80 out of 193 NHS services as inadequate or requires improvements in their latest inspections. The low grades mean they do not meet basic safety standards, with some still failing years after the problems were first identified. These hospitals are being run by inadequate, incompetent or corrupt fools. They need all to be fired, because if you cannot do this job, quit or be fired and get in people who can actually do it and who won't wank that money away on crap. Now I'm going to come up. It's getting me angry. I can feel the anger coming up because I hate what happened to me in hospital, and so I can only imagine what happened to this poor woman. So I just hope she's well now, and I hope everything's back to normal and everything's going well for her. But I'll come up. If you are an expectant mother, you must be deeply worried. Your partner must be worried. Your parents must be worried. Your friends and extended family must be worried and concerned, because you don't know what's going to happen to you. The hospital doesn't know what's going to happen to you. Nobody knows what's going to happen to you because nobody's got a clue. And this problem hasn't just come out of the blue. This has been a long-term problem. They've known about it for years and they've done nothing. And it's not going to get solved anytime soon. NHS midwifery is a joke. They cannot retain, they cannot train, they cannot hire. They haven't got the money because all these middle management wankers have pissed it away on shit. Woke identity politics. You know, that's where the money's going. You're getting Stonewall turning up at hospitals demanding hundreds of thousands of pounds so they can put a plaque on the wall to say, you accept trans people. Let me tell you, hospitals have never, ever refused a trans person. Ever. They don't need to spend 100,000 on a plaque on a wall to say, hey, look, we've had an organisation come here and say that we're good little boys. Stop wasting money on shit like that and hire some damn midwives. and get some proper medication. Put the money at the front end. Hire the proper people to do the proper job. And that means the managers as well. Randomly fire half your management. Put the other half on notice that if things don't improve pronto, half of them will be fired again. And then the money you're going to save from the second firing, you're going to hire in some proper managers who can actually do a job. Get hospitals run by doctors and nurses. They know where to spend the money. Middle management, faceless bureaucrats sitting in an office 10 miles away from the front line have no idea. They simply think this is a good idea. That's a good idea. None of it's a good idea. Caring for the public is your number one concern. Get the job done or get out of the job. We need to help these midwives stay. We need to hire more. And it isn't just midwives. It's oncologists. It's heart specialists. It's all over the NHS. But babies can't wait. So that, I think, is a number one priority. And I shall stop there. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. Make sure you've got a hospital that you trust. And goodbye.